Video 48, Qualitative Data Analysis, Area 4 CHES Subcompetencies 4.4.1. Review the learning objectives for this video. Welcome to Qualitative Data Analysis. This is one of those topics that many candidates find surprisingly interesting once they dive in, and I think you will too. Qualitative data analysis is the process of making sense of non-numerical data such as interview transcripts, focus group recordings, open-ended survey responses, field notes, and documents. Unlike quantitative analysis, which uses statistical procedures, qualitative analysis involves identifying patterns, themes, and meanings in text-based data. Let me walk you through the systematic process step by step. Step 1 is to organize and transcribe your raw data. If you conducted interviews or focus groups, you need accurate verbatim transcripts. If you collected open-ended survey responses, you need to compile them in a format that allows systematic review. Step 2 is to read through all of the data multiple times to develop a thorough familiarity with the content. This is sometimes called immersion. You are not yet analyzing, you are simply absorbing the full range of what participants said. Step 3 is coding, which is the heart of qualitative analysis, and this is where things get really exciting. Coding involves assigning short descriptive labels to meaningful segments of text. Each code represents a concept, idea, or pattern you notice in the data. For example, if a participant says they could not attend the health program because they had no childcare, you might assign the code access barrier. Step 4 is grouping related codes into broader themes. A theme is a recurring pattern that captures something important about the data in relation to your research question. Multiple codes combine to form a theme. For example, codes like no childcare, no transportation, and work schedule conflict might all combine into a broader theme of structural barriers to participation. Step 5 is to review and refine your themes by going back to the original data to verify that the themes accurately represent what participants said. You may need to split, combine, or rename themes during this process. Step 6 is to interpret the themes in the context of your evaluation questions and report findings, typically illustrated with direct quotes from participants that exemplify each theme. You are learning a skill here that is used every day in health education practice, and that makes this knowledge especially valuable. There are two fundamental approaches to coding qualitative data, and the exam expects you to distinguish between them clearly. Once you have this distinction down, you will feel much more confident tackling qualitative analysis questions. Inductive coding is a bottom-up approach, where the codes emerge directly from the data. You do not start with predetermined categories. Instead, you read the data with an open mind and let the participants' words guide the development of codes. If participants in a focus group about healthy eating repeatedly mention time constraints, meal planning difficulty, and family food preferences, those concepts become your codes because the data pointed you to them. Inductive coding is associated with the grounded theory tradition in qualitative research, which aims to build theory from the ground up based on observed data. It is most appropriate for exploratory research where you do not have strong prior expectations about what you will find. Deductive coding is a top-down approach where you start with a predetermined set of codes derived from existing theory, previous research, or your evaluation framework. You then systematically look for instances of those predetermined codes in your data. For example, if you are evaluating a program based on the health belief model, you might start with codes for perceived susceptibility, perceived severity, perceived benefits, perceived barriers, cues to action, and self-efficacy. You then search your interview transcripts for statements that fit into each of these predetermined categories. Deductive coding is most appropriate when you want to test or apply an existing theoretical framework to your data. In practice, many qualitative analyses use a combination of both approaches. You might start with a deductive framework based on theory, but remain open to inductive codes that emerge from the data and fall outside your predetermined categories. This hybrid approach provides structure while maintaining flexibility. For your exam preparation, the key distinction is straightforward. If the codes come from the data, it is inductive. If the codes come from theory, it is deductive. That simple rule will serve you well. In quantitative research, you assess quality through reliability and validity. In qualitative research, there is a parallel set of criteria, and the most important ones for your exam are credibility, transferability, dependability, and confirmability. Let us go through the strategies that establish these because they are very likely to appear on your test. Credibility is the qualitative equivalent of internal validity. It asks whether the findings accurately represent participants' experiences and perspectives. The most well-known strategy for establishing credibility is member checking, also called respondent validation. In member checking, you share your findings, interpretations, or themes with the research participants and ask them to verify whether your analysis accurately captures what they meant. If participants confirm your interpretations, credibility is strengthened. If they disagree, you revise your analysis. This is a powerful concept because it keeps the participant's voice at the center of the research. Triangulation is another powerful strategy for establishing credibility. Triangulation involves using multiple sources of data, multiple methods of data collection, multiple analysts, or multiple theoretical frameworks to examine the same phenomenon. The idea is that if you reach the same conclusions through different approaches, those conclusions are more trustworthy. For example, you might triangulate focus group data with individual interview data and survey data. If all three sources point to the same themes, your findings are more credible. Peer debriefing involves having a colleague who is not directly involved in the study review your data, codes, and themes. This external perspective helps identify potential biases and alternative interpretations that you might have missed. Thick description means providing rich, detailed descriptions of the research context, participants, and findings so that readers can determine for themselves whether the findings are applicable to their own settings. This supports transferability, which is the qualitative equivalent of external validity. An audit trail documents all decisions made during the analysis process, including how codes were developed, how themes were formed, and why particular interpretations were chosen. This transparency allows others to follow your analytical reasoning and assess the dependability of your findings. You have now covered the full landscape of qualitative data analysis, from the step-by-step process through coding approaches and all the way to credibility strategies. That is comprehensive preparation, and you should feel really good about where you stand with this material. Read the scenario stem aloud. Give students 30 seconds to consider options before advancing. The correct answer is B. The health educator is using inductive coding because she is allowing codes to emerge from the data without a predetermined theoretical framework. Her bottom-up approach is characteristic of inductive analysis. The credibility strategy she is using is member checking because she is returning to the original participants to verify whether her interpretations accurately reflect their experiences. Option A is incorrect because she is not using a predetermined framework which rules out deductive coding, and she is not using multiple data sources, which would be triangulation. Option C correctly identifies inductive coding, but incorrectly identifies the credibility strategy as peer debriefing rather than member checking. Option D incorrectly identifies both the coding approach and the credibility strategy. Summarize the